in terms of what happened, the numbers and so forth. So on June 1, we had 1,000. I already mentioned how many 1,000 notes, 1,000 Kenya shillings, 1,000 old banknotes, or what now we are calling old banknotes. They comprised, let's say, 83.2% of our currency in circulation. And in terms of pieces, we had 217 047,000 pieces. So 217 047 000 pieces. So 217 million pieces. We have got back at the end of September when we turned off our system, meaning closed businesses, transacted with our banks, shook hands with the banks and their computers. Then we finished our business here, posted all the things, and then switched off our systems. We had received 200, I'll just read it, 209 661 000. So 209 million pieces. That's what we had received. And that's what we'll destroy to make briquettes. So we received that. We need to be clear that when we receive these 209.7 million pieces, these were received through the banks and the various institutions after they had pushed those transactions through the AML CFT filters that I mentioned earlier. That is important. And then they got cash conversion, so they got cash in return, or maybe they deposited it into the account. So those are the channels. Now it's true somebody could also buy some foreign exchange, and that's okay, but the channels are those, right? So I think it is important to stress the operation of the deployed filters, checking the AML CFT. That is essential. That is essential. And if you recall, this was one of the reasons we are so adamant about not weakening the anti-money laundering framework as we have it, particularly related to cash transactions. Okay. So if you did the math, I gave you enough time to do the math, it means that some 7,386,000 pieces never came to us. Which means that at the end of the day, that is the value, you could say it is 7 billion, so 7.386 billion worth of 1,000 bills that never made it to the central bank. And therefore, when we turned off our computers, became worthless. So people holding 7.4 billion cash on that day, and they did not come to convert their currency to the new board. And I think we can all understand that these are people, for the most part, that maybe had some concerns in terms of going through the checks and things like that. It's not that they didn't know that the transactions were taking place. Now it's true, you do have that person who may have been sick on a particular day and all those other things, and therefore couldn't. But those obviously are few, and we hope few and far between. So there are very few of them, we would hope. But in terms of value, you cannot expect that show to be holding 7 billion. Somebody was holding 7 billion, 7.4 billion. And therefore, on that very day, that person lost 7.4 billion, or those people that were holding this cash. Their net worth was reduced by the full amount. Now I want to give you a comparison. 7.4 billion, that is about a quarter of the budget that of the national referral medical system. So think of the Ministry of Health and think of the referral system that they have. I think it has a longer name, referral and special something or other. So all that, their recurrent budget is 27.1 billion, and Kenya shillings, of course. And you can see that that's like, whatever, a quarter of what is there. The other one, another comparison, I think this is a comparison that is quite apt for many reasons. I wish you to go back to the Goldenberg case that we had years ago, which until then was the largest corruption case we ever had. The criminal case was for stealing of 5.6 billion. If you want the number of the criminal case, I can give you that later. But you can also search it. You can get an intern to check that. And the civil case was 2.1 billion. So you can see it is virtually the same. 7.7 billion, that was the Goldenberg case. And here we have 7.4 billion that has been extinguished from people's wealth. So, where do we go from here? I think the point to make is that the demonetization has been successful. It has been successful because we've completed it smoothly. We've completed it with with the AML CFT filters firmly in place, and therefore anyone who didn't have any you wouldn't expect to have problems because their money is licit and all those other things they can explain. They had no problem, they went through. But it kept out monies that were otherwise, that for whatever reason people the owners didn't know or didn't want to subject themselves to the checks and that were in the system, which is exactly what we intended to do. As I said at the beginning, the objective here was to deal with illicit cash and also to deal with the counterfeits. So on the illicit cash, it worked well. It doesn't end there, as I said, and I'll come back to that, but I think on the counterfeit as well. Now they will have, it's true there has been some counterfeits of, I will call them attempted counterfeits on the new generation currency. And that actually, they are playing on the perhaps lack of knowledge or lack of information about the security features of the new currency. Obviously, we have done we will continue in various ways to put out the message there about the security features. And as more and more people appreciate the security features, I think that there will be less and less room for those, quick counterfeiters. I'm not going to talk about the quality of the counterfeits and things like that. But those obviously have been dealt with as well. As I said, it isn't just now. There's a continuation going forward. So the next steps involve this continuation of investigations, as I mentioned, and also maintaining the current poise of the AML CFT measures that are in place. We started, this is a first step. We started it, we need to continue. this also has given a good start to other agencies. Meaning, think of, for instance, the tax enforcement agencies. They now can deal with the tax enforcement issues much more because people have, I mean, you have those that never cared about the, let's say, or didn't want to pay taxes, and therefore they are working in the sort of criminal area, right? Well, those to begin with have just been taxed the full value of their wealth. The full value of their wealth. By the way, I could ask you another question. What is the highest fine that has ever been imposed on a corruption case in Kenya, ever? This is 52 million. Million we are talking, not billion. So you can see that this has been a very blunt charge on people that have been otherwise, who, for whatever reason, didn't want to subject themselves to this explanation of, tell us where you got your money from and all those other considerations. So it is a good start. It provides a good start to tax enforcement. Also, it provides a good start with regard to reduced cash transactions moving forward. So the cash transactions, we need to move to less cash society. So less cash. And a lot of those, it's true when the conversions that we talked about, a lot of them, or some of them led to deposits. Money came